Thank you. And this is Tuesday, June the 8th. And welcome to the drill to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host and the only true conservative in the United States today. So this morning we're going to have another daily declaration for spiritual warfare. Then I'm going to, we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance, the Star-Spangled-Banner, and then I'm going to be reading selections from the book, The 30 Covert-Emotional-Manipulation Techniques, and then after that, commentary. All that when we come back. Thank you. And today's daily declaration is exercise your legal authority in me. My child, do not be intimidated by the enemy when he tries to tell you that you belong to him and cannot break free. My power at work in your life has given you legal authority to bind his influence from your life and to loose you from his death grip. My son Jesus was the mediator of a new covenant for you, and his death paid the ransom to set you free from sin. Therefore, live as one set free, but do not use your freedom as a cover-up for evil. Live as my servant, bound to me by the new and better covenant through my son's death. Through the new covenant, I will put my laws in your mind and will write them on your heart. I will be your God, and you will be my child. Walk in your legal authority and do not fear the devil and his works of darkness. Prayer declaration. I've been set free from the law of sin and death and from the devil and his works of darkness. I stand in the righteousness of Christ, and I live through the power and authority of the new covenant that God has established with his people. I will walk in my legal authority into a life of holiness and service to my God, and I will never again fear what the enemy might do to me. I am free indeed. Amen. And that was the declaration for spiritual warfare, and for Tuesday, June the 8th. And so now I'm going to be doing in a second here here we go. There we go. Let's see, the the Pledge of Allegiance. Very good. And now, the Star-Spangled Banner. Thank you very much. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And I do the daily declaration for spiritual warfare to remind myself that It is ultimately down to God and the devil. I know that if I believe in God, if I believe in Jesus Christ, I believe in the devil as well. They're inseparable. There's no other way to do it. The world makes sense to me when I include the devil in the equation. People in my life have tried to discourage me from believing in the devil and want me to believe that there's only a heaven. There is no hell. It's just heaven. And that the left tries to convince me of that, and that everybody's basically going to end up going to heaven. So therefore, there's no reason to be judgmental, etc. But I know better than that. I know that God is a mighty God. God is a righteous God, and God will destroy his enemies, will destroy the wicked, will end up destroying the devil. And so then, like I said, everything makes sense. I know what I need to do every day when I get up, and I know what's going on when I am confronted by news, such as I was confronted by about a week ago when a little 6-year-old boy was murdered on the freeway. There was a situation where somebody cut somebody else off, and the person that got cut off flipped off the driver. The driver then decides to go ahead. They didn't just turn around and fire into the car. They maneuvered around so that they could get a better shot. So they come in from the rear, fires into the automobile, killing the 6-year-old boy. What is that if not the work of the devil? What is it? Okay, there's no way to make sense of that kind of activity without the devil being included in that. And by the way, an arrest was made yesterday. They made an announcement about that at a press conference that 2 people are in custody and are going to be arraigned and today. And so they haven't decided the charges yet, so we'll find out what the charges are going to be. As far as I'm concerned, it's just murder. That's all there is to it. 2nd degree, 3rd degree, 1st degree, I don't care. Murder. And as far as I'm concerned, death penalty. I've said it before, certain people need to die. Certain people deserve to die. He deserves to die. Okay, the guy that pulled the trigger deserves to die. End of story. There's nothing to discuss. There's no middle ground. There's no... he did nothing to mitigate the damages, by the way. This is an individual that could have come forward, and he knew that he was a fugitive and that people were looking for him, and he just went on the lam. He laid low and waited for the police to come and get him. No, that's, again, death penalty. There's certain people that deserve to die. You act like a beast, and that there's no other way to describe his behavior other than bestial. He deserves to die. Now, the other thing is with the pledge and the Star-Spangled Banner. Again, some remembering that we don't have to be like the left. We don't have to be like the socialists, like the Nancy Pelosi's, and run around pretending we know it all, we've seen it all, we've been there, done that, and gotten the T-shirt. That we can have a sense of innocence, and we can have a sense of wonder about ourselves and the world around us. So when I come back, I'm going to be reading again from the 30 covert emotional manipulation techniques. Thank you. So this one, let me see. I don't remember where I left off yesterday. I think it was on shifting the focus, and we've got number 5, premature disclosure. Using this tactic, manipulators reveal intimate information about themselves early on to create a false sense of intimacy for the purpose of gaining your trust. The manipulator's self-disclosure can include their thoughts, feelings, goals, fears, dreams, embarrassments, likes and dislikes, and successes and failures. You'll feel free to disclose those things about yourself in return. Exactly. This is priceless. How many times have I been in a situation where I may be standing waiting in line at a restaurant, for instance, and one of the strangers in that line will turn to me and start blurting things out about personal details about his life. and telling me things that I didn't ask for, didn't want to know. The left refers to it as TMI, too much information. But the reality is it's just manipulation. And what they're trying to do is get you to disclose in return. So, and then once you start disclosing about yourself, once you start, then they can start use that as leverage. Well, I don't understand why you won't talk about X. You already just opened up to me about Y, kind of thing. So, and the more you open up to them, the more you give away your privacy, and the less expectation of privacy you can claim. At least that's the way they feel about it. And ultimately, in the long term, the idea is to get you to quit thinking you have any type of expectation of privacy at all. So in those situations, you say no. Or you can just stand there and nod your head, or maybe tell them you feel uncomfortable or walk away or whatever. What you don't do is pretend to yourself that you're being forced to listen to this, because you're not. You know, it's easy to do is say, well, I'm standing in line. I've been in this line already for several minutes. I don't want to leave because I need to get something to eat, and this is what I want to eat. I don't want to have to go somewhere else. Okay, tell yourself, I'm making the decision to stand here and listen to this. Okay, so don't be deterministic about it. I'm being forced. Bullshit. Okay, push comes to shove, you get out of line. That's all there is to it. So, anyways, back to the book. Self-revelation involves vulnerability because of the risk of rejection. But when the disclosure is met with acceptance and understanding, it creates false emotional intimacy. He just says emotional intimacy and trust. No, false emotional intimacy. This is especially so when the manipulator says she feels the same way you do, that she likes the same things, or that she had the very same thing happen to her. Now, let's say she creates emotional intimacy and trust. It doesn't. It appears to, and I say that because we don't know that this person that is allegedly disclosing personal and intimate details about their life is being candid or honest. We don't know. I don't know this person, so they could tell me anything. They could tell me they're a three-legged monster from Mars. What do I know? There's also the opportunity to impress the target by disclosing achievements and philanthropic or compassionate acts. Braggarts is another way of putting that. Manipulators count on this normal bonding behavior to work in their favor. And very often the key for these folks is doing this in public. This is the way they get around the potential embarrassment of the risk of rejection. See, if they do it one-on-one, then you could say, go jam it. Another way, so they do it in public, number one, or they pick their target carefully. So what they do is, for instance, I had a lady that walked up to me and she says, "You must be an artist." And that would have been the perfect opportunity under other circumstances to say, "Who the hell are you?" Because people will do that. They'll talk to you as though we're old friends. Smile, maybe pat you on the back or put their hand on you. And the first question that should be out of any true conservative's mouth is, who are you? Or who the hell are you? Or who the F are you? Who are you? Okay? So, now, she got away with this in this particular circumstances because I chose not to confront her because I was on the job. I was working. Okay, she picked me out deliberately because I was working. I was a parking lot attendant at the time. And so I had a uniform on. I had the name of the company on it. May have even had my name on the shirt. So if she gets any static from me, she simply goes, then the implied threat is that she will go ahead and go to the company and then report me and perhaps get me fired. So now she doesn't really want to do that because that doesn't help her with her movement. But the point is that whether or not I'm an artist is none of her damn business. Okay? But again, she picked me rather than some other random stranger because there's power in it. They're always going to pick situations where they have at least the perception of power. So I chose to put up with it rather than put my job at risk. There you go. I wasn't forced to. She didn't force me to participate in the conversation. And I participated minimally. I didn't come back and confirm or deny. I was able to demur her accusation, if you will. So, but this is what they do. The left will come to you and use these kinds of situations. You're in public, and or you're on the job. You've got your name is on your shirt, or you're wearing a shirt with the anybody they feel they've got on the spot. They'll pull a stunt on bus drivers, police officers. This is a lot of what the left gets away with in Portland when they're spitting on police officers. Is basically an I dare you. I dare you to do anything about it. So back to the book. Number 6, triangulation. Quote, never let the other person use absence or create pain and conflict to keep you, the seduced, on tenterhooks. Robert Greene, The Art of Seduction, unquote. Triangulation is a devious and effective tactic in the manipulator's arsenal. The manipulator creates a triangle between you, him, or her, and some third person outside of your relationship. Little aside here, this guy that writes the book is rather easily intimidated because what he should have put is make up your damn mind. It's either him or it's her. Okay, if you're going to write it from normal English is you would say him. Okay, it's like Spanish. A son is an hijo, a daughter is an hija, children are hijos. That's just the way it works. That's the way it is. No reason to change. And the same thing with English language. What he should do is say him in the sentence. The manipulator creates a triangle between you, him, and some third person. Okay? If he's him, her, him and or her is ultimate in gutlessness, the ultimate in cowardice. It's like carrying a kick me sign. Okay? Either say him or her, but to do it this way, him or her, is just absolute gutlessness. It is intended to make you feel insecure about the relationship and therefore eager to please the manipulator in order to keep him or her around. The manipulator will figuratively or literally bring another man or woman into the relationship in some way. They might talk casually and frequently about an old flame, a coworker, or someone they bump into regularly on their morning coffee run. Or they might obviously flirt with somebody in front of you. Their interest in the other person creates insecurity. One of these techniques that men use is flirting with the waitress. So, their interest in the other person creates insecurity if they make subtle, unfavorable comparisons between you and the outside person, which they're apt to do. That makes it much worse. If you confront them, they will deny interest in the other person and tell you that the real problem is your insecurity or low self-esteem. Where have you heard that before? It's not uncommon for the manipulator to be grooming the other person as his or her next target, while conveniently using that person to devalue and manipulate you at the same time. Another thing that can be said, too, is that very often the third person is a complicit. In other words, there are women and men, but usually I'm going to speak from my own experience. So there are women out there that they're not interested in any guy that's available. They have no interest in a man who has no committed relationship, marriage or otherwise. They just don't. They're fascinated by men that are married or men that have girlfriends. And so very often they will instigate this triad or triangle. You're sitting talking to your girlfriend over lunch, and the waitress comes over and winks at you or smiles at you or flirts with you in some way, shape, or form. You return the flirting, and then we've gone ahead and created the triangle. Because really there isn't a triangle. If I start flirting with a waitress who's not interested in me, there's nothing there. There's no threat. There's no nothing. My girlfriend is going to be irritated with me, and that's all I'm going to get out of the situation. But if I have a waitress that's going to flirt with me, showing obvious interest in me, and I flirt back, now my girlfriend is not only irritated and annoyed, but actually threatened, psychologically speaking. Back to the book. In a healthy relationship, you will know where you stand with your partner. A manipulator creates an ongoing sense of uncertainty, which leads to ongoing emotional angst. 7, blaming the victim. Quote, you saddled me with a lie I never deserved. You led me to believe I was responsible, unquote. From The Prize by Irving Wallace. With this tactic, the manipulator holds the victim responsible for the problems in a relationship. This tactic is a powerful means of putting you on the defense, which makes you look guilty, or making you believe you are truly the one to blame. As the relationship goes bad, and when it finally comes to an end, the manipulator will claim that you are the one at fault. They may even manipulate mutual friends and family into believing you are the one to blame, turning them against you. Just when you need support, you may find yourself with little or none. Skilled manipulators always pretend they are or were the victim. So you see this in politics. And the place that I've seen this where they're being manipulative is, again, in politics, and where I'm thinking national politics, and particularly where it comes to Donald Trump. You're seeing a lot of this type of activity. Nancy Pelosi and her cohorts are always advocating violence. Yet, when violence occurs, they don't accept responsibility. They don't say, gee, maybe I shouldn't do that. What they do is they blame the NRA. Another example of that is what happened on January the 6th, where, again, instead of accepting responsibility for the fact that they did not provide adequate security, they simply blame Donald Trump. And also what they do is they set this. You're going to find that the left or these manipulators will set things in motion. For instance, when January 6th was on its way, Nancy Pelosi was already talking about the potential for trouble in very vague and ominous ways. Oh, January 6th, there might be trouble, and there better not be trouble, and diddle-a-diddle-a-diddle. So that when January 6th shows up, if anything does go sideways, she can be there to say, I told you so. And the same thing you're going to find in a relationship. That the person, it's like having your one foot out the door. They're always going to be trying to set up some kind of scenario where if I have to leave, you're the one that's going to take the blame. So, number 8, indirect insults. Quote, always remember he knows exactly which buttons to push. Unquote. Name calling and insults are direct and obviously aggressive and abusive. Another thing is that's another place for the person that comes up and allegedly reveals personal information or is open with you, is to get you, encourage you to be open with them, and now they want to be able to get dirt. Okay, that also gives them power, and where they the indirect insult thing. An underhanded way to disguise aggression and abuse is to deliver it without the angry or sarcastic tone of voice and to make it sound like teaching, helping, giving advice, or offering solutions. It appears to be a sincere attempt to help, but actually it's the opposite. It's a powerful way to undermine your confidence in yourself and in your abilities. For an example, a manipulator might tell you that you would be less boring as a dance partner if you took a few lessons, when you never knew he considered you boring to dance with. Or she might tell you that she thinks you're a perfectly adequate partner when you question her about what you sense as her emotional withdrawal. Or he might say that he loves it when you wear that dress because it has such a slimming effect on you. These indirect insults are sometimes called backhanded compliments. That's exactly what I was going to say. But that doesn't do justice to the effect this tactic has when the manipulator, someone whom you consider close to you and whom you believe has your best interest at heart, zeroes in on your biggest insecurities or disparages what you consider your best qualities. Let me see what else we got here. Number 9, insinuating comments or compliments. The manipulator innocently makes what is actually a carefully crafted insinuating comment designed to evoke an uncomfortable emotional response. When you take offense, he will tell you that it is not what he intended. The statement is usually disguised as a compliment, but it's one that does not feel very flattering. It is disguised enough, though, for you to believe you might have misunderstood. The manipulator knows what will bother you, and he will enjoy dropping a bomb like this and watching the fallout. Their comment is designed to have several possible meanings, many of which will inspire hurt feelings and doubt. You may feel flummoxed and left without a meaningful response when you first hear it, because it has so many possible interpretations. As an example, your partner smiles and says, quote, you know what? You could make a lot of money as a prostitute, unquote, after you've had sex with him. When you question him, he will tell you he meant it as a compliment. but you'll wonder what he really meant for a long time to come. For the example given, you might wonder why your partner was thinking about prostitutes when he was in bed with you, why he knows so much about prostitution in the first place, what he really thinks of you, and the amount you should put on the bill you're tempted to send to him. And you will also wonder if he was just complimenting you on how great he thinks you are in bed, as he said he was. And this all reminds me again, we go back to determinism on this. It's very easy to get into these kinds of relationships because you got to ask yourself, how'd you get in this relationship? Or I got to ask myself, if I end up in a situation where I'm in bed and the lady says you might make a great male prostitute or something of that nature or whatever, how did I get involved in this with this woman in the first place? It's not like unless we're both drunk, but there's got to be some kind of a pathology here involved. And one of the ways that I can talk myself into getting into that kind of situation is with determinism, is to make the argument to myself that I'm forced to. Because this individual has asked me a question, I've got to give them an answer. I have to give them an answer. And so when I give them an answer and I give them personal information and they use it against me, well then, again, they're forcing me to sleep with them. And then when they sleep with me and then issue ugly statements, about how I'd make a good prostitute or whatever, then again, I'm in this position, I'm stuck, is generally the idea. I'm helpless, I'm stuck, I'm a victim. Instead of accepting responsibility, I'm the one that chose to, and accepting responsibility from the very beginning. When the person is, just because the person is demanding an answer doesn't mean I have to give it to them. Now, how I reject the answer is going to be key, and that's going to be determined by whether or not I'm on my own property. If I'm out and about in a bar, for instance, I'm on somebody else's property. So I'm going to want to be respectful of that and respond in a respectful manner. So if somebody tries to probe me for information that I don't want to give them, then I'm going to want to give a more respectful response. However, if I'm on my own property, whether it's a business, home, car, I can feel free to give a sharper response, and let these people know in no uncertain terms exactly what I'm thinking and what I think and feel about their attempts to, in essence, strip me naked. Back to the book. Comments like these will go to work on you and provide the fuel for plenty of resentment, future arguments, and relationship insecurity. It's easy for the manipulator to make it look like a misunderstanding on your part, but therein lies the clue. The manipulator says he or she meant it as an innocent compliment, one that you simply misunderstood. Of course you did. A compliment doesn't usually hurt your feelings or leave you feeling bewildered. 10. Guilt. A skilled manipulator can make you feel incredibly guilty for not doing something they want you to do. Your conscience and your desire to be a good person can be used to control you. They can make you lose sight of the fact that you don't want to do what the manipulator wants you to do, but you've been made to feel that you should do it. And again, we've got to be careful here, made to feel. You're not made to feel that you should do it. You make your own decisions. Somebody can try to push a guilt button, but you're the one that decides whether or not whether to respond to it initially, and if you're going to respond to it, how to respond to it. You're not a victim. Many of us are conditioned to feel guilt by our family, religion, and society, so it's easy for manipulators to make us feel it too. Now, here's again a subtle, deterministic impulse here where he's suggesting that it is society's fault, religion's fault, and family, the fault of our family, that we're easily manipulated by guilt. No, it's our own fault. I can't do anything about the feelings. If you come up and insult me, I'm going to feel insulted. Now, whether or not I choose or how I choose to respond or react to that is on me. Let me see. Let's see. Being able to feel guilt means that we have a conscience. It's not a bad thing, except when it's exploited. Guilt is a negative emotion experienced when we believe we have harmed someone or when something we've done or failed to do made someone think poorly of us. Our natural reaction is to apologize, make amends, and act in a way that will make the other person think highly of us again, which means acting in the way that person wants us to act. Guilt is closely related to shame and anxiety. It's an uncomfortable emotion, so we are highly motivated to avoid it. We evade the torment of guilt by behaving the way others expect us to. Manipulators know this all too well and use it to their advantage. The following are examples of statements that can send us on a guilt trip. Quote, I can't believe you would even think that I would lie to you, unquote. Quote, how can you feel that way after all I've done for you, unquote. Quote, don't worry, I guess I'll manage somehow if you won't help me out, unquote. Quote, if you really loved me, you would blank, unquote. Fill in the blank with anything a manipulator wants you to do that you would not want to do. So, back in a minute. Thank you. I want to go ahead and say, remind everybody that I have a book that's been published on Kindle Publishing, and it's called The Drill. It's the companion book to this particular podcast. It's $2.99, 80 pages long, well worth reading to give you insights into how it is that I think and where I've gotten a lot of my information. Now, perhaps the best part of the book is the 20 pages at the end in which I have recommended reading. These are all books, a list of all books that I have read, if not cover to cover, then I've read significant portions of. So again, it gives you an insight into where it is that I'm coming from. It's also books that I recommend that you read. That very often you want to know, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? First thing is you got to get information. You got to know what's going on. And a good place to do that is read a book. Especially in light of the way news media is today. It's no longer Walter Cronkite's universe. It is now a place in which you have blatant, flagrant propagandism going on, but which would be okay if the news agencies were open and honest about it. If they would come out and say, all the Marxist news that's fit to print, fine. I know exactly what I'm dealing with if I go ahead and read the Times. But they don't do that. They want to confuse and obfuscate deliberately, hoping that you're going to misunderstand propaganda for actual news. So that's and again, in order to be able to do that, you want to be able to have information and be able to you can read books instead of, if you're thinking, what else do I do besides newspapers? There's magazines. You do have weekly magazines that are basically synopsises of the news with opinion in it. And there's books. You can get books that are exposés. You can get books that are memoirs of a certain sort that have to do with current events. I'm kind of on that because current event books, they're obsolete so fast. Within 2 weeks, they're useless usually. So, but get books that have depth to them, and that's what I'm emphasizing in the last 20 pages of my book called The Drill. Is these are all books that have depth to them, provide you with a foundation for your thinking. So that brings me to the end of another episode of The Drill, and until next time, be honest, be smart, be beautiful, and remember that the left has no authority, no power, and they can't win.